I'd like to welcome everybody to the February edition of the February 2022 edition, so to speak. But welcome, and it's now another great program. We're going to do a little club business afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Rob Osatin, our very handsome program chairman, and he'll get it
Profile.
started. So go ahead, Rob.
Thanks. And you know, it's a good thing that I'm not. I don't like speaking because that way this introduction is only going to take 5 minutes instead of 20 minutes. But because I've been doing some research on you, Ria, and you know, you told me where to go for some of your information, and I found I found when you spoke in front of a club and they introduced you, and he just went through a whole list of everything ham radio related that you were in, which was just about everything in ham radio. But let me say tonight we've got another speaker as part of our what I'm calling our DX speakers series. You know, speakers from outside the Atlanta area, and Zoom's letting us do all that. So we've got another one. I was glad to find Ria. You're gonna like her. So yeah, let me just quickly, I forgot too much on here, but yeah, as you said, she said licensed since 1997. So she's got me beat by 10 years. Active in contesting, DXing, DMR, digital, you know, what you would expect. She's got a top Elmer Award for mentoring on Flex Radio. You know, Flex Radio is the high-end, really nice high-end SDR. She's an alumna of NYU, New York University, where I guess you studied EE, which is very cool. And I used to hang out and I went to school. I grew up in New York, and we used to hang out at Columbia and NYU, just trying to soak in the, I don't know, soak in the environment. Actually, Columbia, well, and we were doing other things. As far as in the ARRL, you know, you're a big ARRL person, right? And you are Hudson Division Director. Hudson Division is it all of New Jersey and Southern New York, or what's the size of that?
So it's kind of funny. I get carve outs of New Jersey and New York, and it's kind of I look for the historical origin of that, but I'll explain that. Yeah, so I have the sections of Eastern New York, New York City, Long Island, and Northern New Jersey.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Long Island is part of that. I was wondering about that. That's a nice size. So you're on which, you know, so you, as director, you're on the board, and I first heard of you when there was a move. What was it? There was a dissident ARRL group on Facebook, right? Which I think you were part of, right? It was there. Oh, good. Now we know it's officially you. Yeah, bumped into you on Facebook where you were a member of, I guess, what we call sort of the squad. It was the directors who were trying to get in office to fix the problems the ARRL had and, you know, get transparent again. You know, you and Mickey and some others, and that worked out really well. I'm glad y'all got in there. And according to this, I don't know what the date is, but as a director, you know, I've got your chair of the IT modernization committee, and you're on the program.
That's all. Yeah, that's all dated. We actually disbanded that because we kind of rolled things around. We got a new CEO, but Mickey will talk to that with you guys, right? But basically, I'm just on administration and finance, which deals with IT, and I'm also on the band planning committee, and you know, I do a few things here and there.
So that's very helpful. Very good. Yeah, I'm sure we'll hear from him. Yeah, so you got your own YouTube channel. So if people want to see, you've got a lot of content out there. If people want to see, just check out your YouTube channel. Yeah, I saw the beginning of a presentation that you did on radio and its convergence with computers for Fairlawn. And a lot of us are computer people. And because I was thinking about that the convergence leads to our topic tonight. You know, you take a radio and it's got hardware in there, and you say, okay, instead of the hardware, let me throw a CPU in there. Let me get some cool digital software on here and put it together, and you got an SDR, which is what we're gonna talk about. And as I understand it, you can mainly you can tell us about the types of SDR, some use cases for DX. how it is to use a computer without knobs, a radio without knobs. I know that people end up paying a lot of money to get the knobs back.
Yeah.
Well, your Maestro is not cheap, and the
Right.
and internet remotes. It's very easy to remote into, and other things. So with all that, and since I've taken too much time here, yeah, I'm just going to turn it over to Ria Jairam. Did I think I got that right?
Oh, you definitely got it right. I'm really glad that you did. Thank you. All right. So let me see if I could share something here. Right. Okay. So I apologize for pixelating your logo. I like to customize these presentations for my audience. So
That's us. Yeah.
yeah. All right. So good evening to all of my friends in Atlanta. I really appreciate this, and also I appreciate working with Mickey Baker, N4MB, who's your ARRL director. And he said he would come, but I guess he got busy, but it's okay. You'll probably watch the recorded version.
Yeah.
All right. So you explained all about me. I was licensed in '97, and then I got licensed in 2001 in Brooklyn. I told a story. Currently, I work in the banking industry. I work at a large investment bank, and I do a lot of financial IT stuff, going between software development, engineering, architecture, cloud, and just really, I mean, I'm kind of like, the person in the room who's been around a long time and just knows everything. So a lot of people come to me with stuff, and I love to be technically curious. I had Elmer who was technically curious. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. And then I had another Elmer who, got me into the ham culture here in the USA and New Jersey, and he's no longer with us too. So, but you only live once, and these two guys, they pass their knowledge on. So I'm here to pass my knowledge on. And as I mentioned, I serve ARRL as the director of the Hudson Division. Of course, you guys are in Southeastern. And I am a district chair for YLRL, Young Ladies Radio League. Okay. I just thought I'd break the ice here. There are two things I like about Atlanta, right? Because I've been to Atlanta many times, and a lot of times I don't leave the airport. Okay, because I fly Delta, right? And I'm actually going to Orlando this next week, so I'm actually taking a direct flight from LaGuardia. So unfortunately, I wouldn't be stopping off in Atlanta. But I also like Coca-Cola. So, right, those two things. Okay. On with our story. So I am a Flex radio user, by the way. I love Flex radios, but I talk about other radios too. Let's face it, a lot of things are similar, and a lot of things are actually, they're really not that different. Some of them even use the same parts. I've actually went inside these radios and I've talked to some of the manufacturers, and they use some of the same parts. So it's really not, that all different. Really, the software makes a lot of difference. And of course, no radio manufacturer is paying me to say what I say, and they are not endorsing. And so I'm completely, fully independent on this, okay? And of course, I am a DXer. I enjoyed a lot. I enjoy radio for radio's sake. I enjoy making long distance contacts. I have DXEC on 9 bands, and I'm working on my 10th. The 10th band is 60 meters. And I have Challenge. I love getting on the air and working DX. I love CW. I love I love the digital modes. Joe Taylor is is my friend, and I enjoy all the work he does for the community. At the same time, there is nothing for me like CW. I get on and I make the contact. I actually find it easier to DX using CW. I just learned so much as a DXer about my station, about propagation, and about even just learning about the world, so it isn't always technical. And then other things I do some MCOM and Aries, but I don't really do that much anymore. I do kits. I'm actually building a kit on my YouTube channel this Sunday. live. It's a gift from Joe Eisenberg. I'm sure you know him. He's the kit building editor for CQ Magazine. So he actually came over my house and stayed for a bit because HRU, the conference you guys saw me on, he was a presenter, but instead of putting up a hotel, I just told him, I'd toss him one of the spare bedrooms and he could go there. I love drones. I'm a FAA certified Part 107 and all that stuff, and I do drone stuff commercially. So I love contesting, and I have a regular rag crew group on 40 and 80 meters when propagation permits. Let's talk about the architecture.
Okay. Now, I don't want to get too deep into it, but I want to present a high level so that people at least understand what is going on, the mechanics behind it. So I'm going to toss this big block diagram in front of you. So this is the flex radio system here, right? And this is straight from their documentation. I'm going to annotate this a little bit. So here now you have the what they call the antenna matrix, which is basically they have like an antenna switcher. They have an antenna switch to switch between the first and the second antenna. They also have receive antennas, right? Receive antenna ports, and those go directly to what they call spectral capture units, which I will explain. Okay, and they also have once you pass the antenna matrix, this is called a spectral capture unit. They call it spectral capture units, but it's basically a whole bunch of components designed to digitize RF. You have their front end filters, and I'll explain a little later on why we need front end filters in an SDR sometimes. You have a preamplifier, right? Or attenuation, also relevant. And this is where the fun begins. Then you have the analog to digital converter, right? So what this does is this, instead of taking an audio signal and turning it into digital bits, this takes RF, radio frequency signal, and turns into digital bits. And then they feed all of this into this FPGA, field programmable gate array, right? So they have their custom software, custom hardware, digital signal processor in the FPGA. And then they have this funky little piece of thing here, which is the digital signal processing, right? And then they have, locally, you can get audio out of the radio, go into your speaker or your mic, or you could pipe that over Ethernet, right? Which is their preferred method. You could pipe that over Ethernet, and that goes to a computer, it goes to a Maestro, you go over the internet to your iPhone. They don't have Android support yet, unfortunately. It could go to a Mac, it could go to, a number of different places. Okay, and so I got that. So that is the receive chain. You notice that you have two of them, right? This is a 6700. So you have a second one here. So you essentially have two fully independent receivers, hardware receivers, okay? It's important to note. So you can attach two independent antennas to this antenna matrix, and you can have them feeding one into the other, and you can receive from two antennas. This is important for things like diversity, reception, or it's important also for if you're doing SO2R, single operator to radio, okay? Right, so that's a receive chain. Let's do the transmit chain now. So again, transmit, you start on this side, okay? You start with the mic. You go into the audio DSP codec, and then you go into this DaVinci, the DSP, right? Then you go into the FPGA, and then you go into this digital to analog converter, which changes the digital signal into RF, because you want to make radio frequency signals to go to this power amplifier here. And then you have, of course, output filtering and optionally a tuner. And then you go out to the antennas. Now, driving all of this, you have your clock, right? Which I'll explain the clock later on. And this oscillator, the master oscillator, which basically is like the master clock for the whole thing, is either a temperature controlled, right, in the Flex 6500, oven controlled in the Flex 6700, or optionally, I have this, the GPS disciplined. So this basically means that it has a GPS receiver, which will then discipline the local clock to a very stable source GPS. Of course, you can take an additional, you can take a 10 megahertz in, right, from a rubidium source or something like that, okay? And, you know, miscellaneous things, power system, like, you know, voltage regulators and stuff, and the supervisor. This supervisor basically is a system on a chip, it's called. It's basically like a computer system, and it runs Linux, okay? So if you ever Linux. And they have a little display, a little LCD display. They don't really use that much anymore, right? Okay, so.
Hey, Ria, your
Yeah.
audio just got really muddy and some people are having difficulty understanding. Just wanted to let you know.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. Let me just take a look. Let me clear this. It got my, oh, you know what?
Is it better now?
Yes,
Are you sure?
yes.
Okay,
Good.
yeah, the gain was set a little too high apparently. I don't know why it went so high. Let me see, 15, 12, 10, 9, 6, 3, 0. All right, how is that now? Is that better?
You're good. Yes, you're good.
All right, yeah. Yeah, well, thanks for letting me know. Thanks for letting me know, okay? This is bad again. You know what? I'll just switch to my internal microphone. That's probably better.
All right, it's probably going to sound a little echoey, but that it's, you know, it's probably better.
Lots better.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good. All right. I'll use that then. Okay. I apologize. And then clear all drawings here. And then. All right. Okay. All right. Thanks for letting me know. So here you can see some of the chips on the board, right? And you'll have here, this is the Vertex DSP processor they were talking about. So this actually is designed for processing video, okay? And this is actually designed, you know, it's really, really fast and intensive. And this pretty much is the most expensive component in the radio. And then they have this Vertex 6, and they also have a Texas Instruments. The Vertex 6 is the, whoops. Right. And then they have this Texas Instruments processor here. All right, so you have, you know, Flex is not the only brand of SDR out there. This is, you can again see that how ICOM has the ICOM 7610, and it's basically the same thing. Okay, you have the antenna matrix here, and then you have the what they call digicell, and then they have bandpass filters. You have the analog to digital converter, and then the FPGA, which is the same, you know, digital signal processing through field programmable gate array. Basically, it's a custom programmable chip that they program into a digital signal processor, and then they have a digital to analog converter, amplifier, and then goes to the speaker. Okay, so they're all, like I said, they're all similar. Actually, I believe ICOM and Flex use the same analog to digital converter. So today, you know, I mentioned Flex, I mentioned ICOM. Today you have everybody, right? You can see here, you have these guys. These are Elecraft, okay? Elecraft with a K4. So Elecraft has basically two types of K4 they are producing. One of them is the K4, and I believe they have one called a K4D, which has like analog front end, with filters and such like that, and then they have the SDR guts after that. Okay. Then you have ICOM, of course, with the world's most popular software-defined radio. I can't believe that this radio is $1,000 or less. Okay, this is
Ria,
yeah.
are you wanting to have your presentation up? You're not sharing right now.
I'm not.
No.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, yes, she is, Dave.
Yeah, it says it's green. It says you are screen sharing.
Yeah, I see her.
Dave, go up and change your view in the top right corner.
Okay, let me go.
Do you see me now?
I see you. I don't see your screen.
Mm,
I see them both. Today's SDR landscape.
yeah. Are you on a phone by chance?
That's because he works for CNN.
Oh no. All right. Well,
Dave, you can watch the video. It'll be in the video afterwards if you don't catch it.
yeah, I'm gonna PDF these slides too, so you guys can have them. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So yeah. So
Thanks,
you have
keep going.
also, yeah, you also have Apache Labs, right? And they basically kind of adopted this open source project, HPSDR, and they manufacture the Anand series, which are basically born out of Open HPSDR. Of course, you have Flex now having different radios. They have the M series, which has the built-in Maestro. Basically, it is what it is, but it has a built-in. It's an all-in-one. You no longer need to use a computer. And then you have Yaesu getting into making some very good SDRs, I think. And then absent from all this, where's Kenwood? I don't know. I want to see them too, but I guess they're kind of like slow and low, right? But I don't see them there, and I don't know. But anyway, these are what we're having now. We have SDR has officially become mainstream. Then you have not to be outdone, you have Chinese radio manufacturers developing cheaper radios. I think this one is like $600, and this one has it has a really nice color screen. This is I believe it's 10 watts, 10 or 15 watts. It's a Xiegu X6100, and actually this one has like Linux built in. So, and some of these guys actually hacked this thing. They connected to one of these ports on the side here, and they hacked it, and they were able to get into the operating system. So, really neat though. Okay. Then you have this little ruggedized little beauty. This is the Lab 599 Discovery, which is a little really, really ruggedized radio. I mean, you could throw this in your backpack and then just toss this on the ground. And all the connectors are, I guess, IP67 rated, and they're you can really just carry this and go to town, right? So what does the SDR offer you? You can see all your spectrum. You can get the best performance in the worst band conditions, right? And what DXers typically encounter in contesters too. Integration is a lot easier since everything's software driven. It's a lot easier for software to talk to software. And then of course, you have remote operation as well, where you can operate remotely from anywhere on the planet. I must confess, most of the time, a lot of the time, I am operating my radio remotely because I'm home a lot of times, but sometimes there are DXs when I'm not home. So, basically with an SDR, now you have a full pan adapter, and here you could see basically a whole band full of signals, right? And you have all these CW signals here from one of these 160 contests. You could see the kind of like, cut off around here, and you see here it gets a little sparse, and around 1840 is supposed to be FT8, but I think this was a different time. I have my little CW skimmer, which I'll explain. Okay, clear that. Okay, and then now you could actually feed. Now this here is CW skimmer, right? This is where, and like I mentioned, I like CW, where I take not just audio signals from a radio, but I take a whole wideband feed, right, of I guess 192 kilohertz of spectrum. I feed this into CW skimmer and then decode Morse code. And then the next logical progression is I take that data and then I feed it back and overlay it back on top of the display like that. Okay. So the level of visibility is pretty much unprecedented now. Maybe tomorrow they'll do speech recognition. I don't know, but you know, I think we're moving a little backwards these days. Everybody's pretty much on FT8 now. They don't care to get on voice. So who knows? I'm not knocking FT8. It's just sometimes, you know, I want to get on voice. And this was originally supposed to be a video, but typically I would have my CW skimmer window open and then I would be watching a pile up here. And if you notice, it's probably a little small, but you see this little 599 here? This is where the DX just called 599, where they were listening. And then you could go in there, insert yourself and be next in line. It's a little trick I learned. So performance is perhaps one of the biggest advantages of having a software-defined radio, okay? When you have signals in the analog domain, you have a lot of environmental factors and noise because our world is electrically noisy, and even receiver-generated self-noise gets in there, okay? When they're in the digital domain, you have math, and math is pretty much not affected by that. So you'll find that the noise floor and the dynamic range are extremely much better than on an SDR. And there is a discussion on phase noise I'm going to have in a bit, right? The only caveat, which I'll explain later, is the linearity of some of this these SDRs and analog to digital converters. So you got to watch out when you get higher up. So Rob Sherwood, this is where I usually go to Rob Sherwood's site and explain, but the long story short of Rob Sherwood's testing is that Rob has ranked all these receivers by third order dynamic range, which in layman's terms really means the ability of the radio to operate in a crowded band, right? With crowded band conditions. And that's what it really boils down to, okay? And the SDRs consistently come out on top. So, you know, if you're working a weak signal among giants, and you know, everybody in Europe is running a lot of power. That is kidding. Well, a lot of them are, okay? And, you know, you really have to be, you know, you have to have a good receiver to pick out the weak ones. The ARRL lab has been doing a lot of testing on receivers, and the SDRs also come out on top. You see these in QST reviews all the time. They developed a metric called reciprocal mixing dynamic range, which is the same thing, basically the ability to hear weak signals among adjacent strong ones. Now, by the way, ARRL is coming out with something called Clean Signal Initiative, and Mickey will tell you more about that. Basically, they're going to be certifying transceivers for their ability to output clean signals. So yeah, this is discussion of third order dynamic range. So essentially what they're saying is that as you increase the third order dynamic range, meaning that the receiver gets better at receiving signals, weak signals next to strong ones, the phase noise dynamic range is becomes the dominant performance specification, right? So the old receivers, they use frequency synthesizers, right? PLL for tuning. And then they have a lot of phase noise because they have a lot of mixers and such like that, okay? And a lot of spurious emissions, right? A lot of unwanted signals. In the Flex and other SDRs, they use an ultra low phase noise master oscillator operating at a very high frequency, 983 megahertz, right? So all the clock drivers, you know, they have extremely, because of the Flex and other SDRs to deliver extremely good phase noise performance. So you can hear a lot of weak signals that you would not normally hear. And of course, you would also get a clean and transmitting signal. There's another way to do that too, which I'll explain. Right? And here they talk about their DSP chips, they're talking about different other transceivers where they're using really, low end DSP chips, and they use very high end ones, and they're able to to scratch a lot more performance out of them. Of course, with great power comes great responsibility, and you can't be good at everything. So unfortunately, digital signals operate in levels of absolute. There is no wiggle room at the top. Once you reach the ceiling, that's it. So once you clip digitally, that's it, you're done. So you have to really either adjust the gain back down, have some filtering at the front end for out of band signals, right? Otherwise you're going to be in trouble on something like field day. And I know some of these SDRs like the Flex 6300 and even the ICOM 7300 that don't have good front end filtering, they tend to suffer on environments where you have strong transmitters close by. All right, so let's talk about connecting all your gear together. So this is my station, some iteration of my station, probably a couple of years ago, because I don't have the Maestro anymore. Again, you have like WSJT has driven all of this, but to be honest, a lot of people were already kind of integrating their stations together anyway. I remember when I first got on HF, well, I first got on HF Mobile. When I first began doing a lot of DXing from home, I would struggle to, adjust 4 or 5 different pieces of gear just to work one DX. Now I push a button, I go on a frequency, everything lines up, okay? And then my contesting software, all I have to do is I tune across the band, I call a station, and everything is, works together. All the amplifier, all the software, everything. And then, the reason you want to do this is that time, right? When you're on the chase, on the hunt for DX, like in the morning, I get up and I look for the Far East, for Asia, and sometimes I want to catch them before the horde, descends, and then somebody spots them on a cluster, If I'm waiting for stuff and adjusting my station, I'm making errors. And then, in the meantime, some, Johnny come late and he said, oh, I see a nice DX. I'm going to spot him on a cluster. Boom, you're done. So if you have a well-integrated station, you can get in and out quickly. Now, what these guys are doing, and this is a whole separate presentation. You could probably ask Dave, WO2X, to come talk about it, right? He's a good guy for that. They're using something called Node Red, and they're doing a whole bunch of integrations with flex radios and other radios, and really just, bringing everything together using a Raspberry Pi. And they have nice dashboards showing everything, really slick stuff. The other benefit, of course, is less wiring, right? Yes, some of these legacy analog radios have USB connections, but the SDR makes it so much easier since everything is already digital. It simplifies everything for them, right? You don't have 50 wires coming out the back of your radio. All you have is your coax, your power, and a USB cable, because you can put so much on a single USB bus. Remember I talked about that gigabit Ethernet? Well, Flex is doing that too. Flex has Ethernet jack in the back, and it hooks onto your Wi-Fi router. Your radio doesn't even have to be in the same room. Okay. Now, back to performance a little bit. There's something I didn't include in this presentation I should be talking about, is the adaptive pre-distortion. Okay, so a lot of SDRs now, what they do is they take a sample from the amplifier, right? A very low level sample from the amplifier, and then they feed back in, and then they could pick out the distortion of the signal, so they could compare that output signal to the signal they generate. And then what they can do is they can adjust the signal, pre-distort it the other way, so that when it comes out the amplifier, it's basically, as clean as possible, right? So it's kind of like, and this is the best way I can describe it, okay? It's kind of like you're driving your car and the steering wheel's a little off, okay? And it's pulling to one side. Well, you just pull it to the other side until the whole thing goes straight, okay? That's the best way I could put it. It's actually already used in broadcast a lot, right? A lot of broadcast applications already use it. And you'll find that amateur radio is getting more of it now. I just thought I'd mention it. So now we're talking about remote operation. I like to call it presence. You know, like I said, I lead a very busy and you know, interesting life. I have other things. I still manage to work DX, and how can I do this? So I have remote operation, right? My Flex radio is hooked up to the internet through their facility called SmartLink. Now, prior to that, I used to use a VPN with a piece of software called Soft Ether. And what I did was I was able to basically go anywhere, right? And all I need was a laptop or an iPad or an iPhone, and I could log in to my radio at home and operate as if I was there. And here I am. This is where, you know, this picture here is where I'm in a whole other country. I'm in Argentina here. And I have my radio here. So more stuff, okay? Well, I already talked about CW skimmer. You know, I got this nice trick from Tim Duffy, K3LR, is that before each contest, he runs Whisper for about a week, right? And he does a whole analysis on when the bands open and close. So that's something you could do too. You can also put your FT8 receiver on and then have it go upload to PSK Reporter. And then you could look in pskreporter.info, and then you can see all where you received and what time. That's a really good way to tell, you know, what your station is hearing. Well, let's say you want to get your feet wet. What can you get for $1? You can't really get anything for $1. Okay, let's face it. Okay, inflation has just been hell, but you can get a functional SDR receiver. I think it's still $21. So I built a number of these kits. They're soft rock. They're available from fivedash.com, FIVEDASH, 5dash, and they have a whole bunch of these little kits. You build them. They're through hole solder components. Some of them might need some surface mount soldering. So, but you hook these up to your computer sound card, and you hook up the antenna to the other end, and a 12-volt power supply, and you're able to go and listen. And you can use these with CW skimmer. You don't like soldering, you can get an RTL SDR. So RTL SDR basically is a TV tuner, right? So how this was discovered was there are some European TV tuners that people figure out, well, you know what, they could actually use this software to find radios. And then people began taking them and packaging them up. So what they do is for HF, so these RTL SDRs, they actually receive on UHF and above, right? To get HF signals into them, you need to get an up converter. So they basically get an up converter and then feed the signals into them. Here's a neat little trick enabled by SDRs. How do you know if you're getting out? You go to reversebeacon.net, right? If you're on CW, you could send a few CQs, and then you can see who is receiving you. There's a whole network of SDRs that receives you. And then you can see here what sort of signal, how loud they're receiving you, okay? Well, let's say you want to compare whose signal is bigger, okay? Here I decided to put myself up against Dave Sumner and Chaz. Well, Dave Sumner, this was on a contest weekend, right? You go to reversebeacon.net/analysis. Dave really wasn't on that much, right? But Chaz was, and in some, I was actually surprised. In a lot of respects, I was dead even with him, and sometimes even a little stronger. So you can do that too. Yeah, you know, and in the end, you know, you just wanna you know, have fun and stay within the rules. I don't believe there are some awards that allow you to use remote external receivers with a local transmitter, but that doesn't mean remote operation is illegal. It's just, or against rules. It means that, you know, you should have a receiver. I believe the transmitter and receiver must be in the same place. I always like to tell people, you know, if you're not a member of the ARRL, join, and you can talk to Mickey more about that, and he will get you signed right up, or your section manager. And I'm also on YouTube. You can look for me on YouTube. I do a lot of talks about interesting stuff, and if you like what you see, you know, be sure to like and subscribe. That's all I got to say, and that we have come to the end, my friends.
Ready for questions? Are you ready for questions?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was directed at me.
Oh, you mentioned you didn't have the Maestro anymore. I'm
Yeah.
curious as to why you got rid of it.
Well, I had an older version of the Maestro with a battery issue. Okay. And
okay.
I didn't, you know, I kind of like, well, you know, I didn't want to deal with that. And I kind of like said at the same time, you know, I really didn't use the Maestro. Okay. I'm a point and click type of person. Okay. So I don't miss the knobs. That's why. But yeah.
All right. And someone lost video about the time you were saying what was the most popular SWR radio. But,
yeah, and the ICOM 7300. I can't believe that the ICOM 7300 is what it is. It's a SDR radio, right? It's $1,000, and the performance for that price of radio is fantastic.
I have a question about on the low end. You know, you've got the cheap SDRs that, you know, receive only SDRs. Well, at what point do you get transmit capabilities? You know, what's the price point where that starts coming in? If you want something low end that does, you know, transmit and receive.
You want to know something? You could get one for $100.
That's good.
Yeah, if you check for like I don't know if it's about $100, right? 5dash.com. They sell the software kits, and they sell them, some of them fully assembled, that will do you know, transmit and receive QRP, right? Mind you, but you can get transmit and receive. These are older generation SDRs. These are not direct sampling. So the Flex technology and the ICOM 7300 is what you call direct sampling. This one is what you call quadrature sampling. So basically it down converts the RF down to a baseband level that's like almost audio frequency, and it uses your sound card. So you can get that for about $100. Beyond that, to get like the cheap options, you know, I really don't know about direct sampling could get expensive, you know. But like I said, Shegu makes the X51. I believe it's called the X6100, which is that one that I showed you with the nice screen. So.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, there are several now in the $500 to $600 range that or they're all QRP radios. So you can talk to Dave at N2RJ or me about those. We'll geek out.
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'll ask you guys about that.
I have a question on what your thoughts are about ICOM's view of doing SDR versus Yaesu's. It seems like the Yaesu FT DX10 is probably a little bit better receiver than the IC 7300.
Yeah.
If you look at the Sherwood numbers, but I'm just curious if what your thoughts are on the mechanics of how they use SDR in the two platforms, or if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I think what it has to do with is I mean, this is just a guess, okay? I don't because I asked ICOM for specs and they say, oh, that's proprietary information. I think what happens is it comes down to ICOM with the 7300. First of all, they used a lower resolution analog to digital converter, and they use some tricks, aliasing, to get it, you know, to get the performance acceptable. So that's one reason. In a 7610, I think they use good ADCs, but I think maybe some of the other components, they didn't like. I honestly don't know what Yaesu's secrets are. Based on my guess, I would have to say that Yaesu used probably faster DSP or something, but that would be just a guess because these
Yeah,
guys
I just looked at the number for the price differential. I mean, it's about $600 more for that one, but it's a whole lot more sensitive receiver than the ICOM is. The ICOM is comparable though. I mean, it's not a bad receiver either, but it's just the minimum detectable signal now is better on the Yaesu.
Yeah, between both of them, I mean, your human ears is really not going to tell the difference.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Anybody
else?
Anyone else? Anyone?
Yeah, I'm curious if you're, since you're pretty familiar with the Flex, do you know if Flex has any new things in the pipe?
You want to know something? They don't even tell me that, but I can tell you that Flex, I think for the amateur line of products, they're kind of like settled right now for now. Okay. The 6600, but they might, I don't know. I'm just speculating. Who knows if they bring out a portable radio, that would be a real winner. If they're, but I really don't know. They don't tell me. Okay. I think right now they're kind of tied up with, and they're expanding, by the way. They're growing because they have this big contract with General Atomics, right? So they're actually using the Flex 6600 to provide communications over HF with General Atomics Predator drones, okay, the MQ-1. And they, how they use it is they have a data link and they can upload an autonomous flight plan to the drone, and then the drone can then execute that plan. So in case some rogue nation decides to destroy satellites or something, right? Because usually they control these things via satellites. They can control VHF. So long story short, Flex is a lot of their work now is defense related, okay? But they're still improving amateur, and a lot of what they're improving now has to do with the software. They're bringing online some new software features, which I do know they're bringing on. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to disclose the new software features they're bringing on, but that's where a lot of their improvement happens. The hardware tends to remain long-term. So I wish I had a better answer for you.
Ria, that was going to be my question is, do they make most of their money from diplomatic corps and intelligence organizations and defense, and you went right straight to it? So,
well, I mean, there's only so much you could get from hams, right? But they signed some pretty big contracts with not necessarily just the diplomatic corps, but the drone deal was pretty big.
The reason I was asking about that is that these are pretty expensive radios. And while I'd love to have one, I would hate to spend a ton of money on one of them the day before they announce the next model.
Listen, just don't buy one around Dayton, okay? Because that's typically when they announce new products.
Good advice.
I don't know if they're going to announce anything this Dayton, okay? Don't quote me on that. I really don't. I Steve Hicks and these guys don't tell me until they until like 2 days before. They call us in a room and then they tell us, hey guys, we're going to release these products. So that we get literally no advanced knowledge. But no, it's but I've actually seen products in the development phase, like the Flex 6600. I saw where Steve had a prototype, but also the wires hanging out on his desk, and he was saying, look at this, and he's booting it up with Linux and it's starting up, it's alive. I'm like, okay, nice. Yeah.
Can people add their own software to these to add functionality? Assuming you know how to do the digital, process the digital signal.
That's a very good question. And the answer is yes and no. Okay. You cannot add software in the radio itself, right? Because the radio runs on software and it's encrypted and such like that. However, Flex does expose an API, right? They have an application programming interface, API, and a lot of people could write third-party software that basically interacts and with the radio and can control the radio, do all sorts of things with the radio, receive raw data streams and such like that. So there's a lot you can do. The core radio, though, the hardware, you can't really do anything. But that works for most people.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like for modulation technique, where does things like FT8 get processed? Is JT, is that running on your computer? Yeah, I guess the digital processing is happening on your computer or in the radio. I mean, the demod of, say, FT8.
Yeah, so that happens on your computer, but theoretically, though, well, FT8 is one thing, right? But let's say something like digital voice, right? Like FreeDV, okay? At one time, there was a software module that you could load in the radio, right? And then what would happen is that it would allow the decoding of FreeDV in the radio, right? And they had those. They call those waveforms. So that waveform API is available. The problem is nobody's really done anything with it. They made one for FreeDV, and then that kind of like fell by the main side, became, wayside, became unmaintained, and nobody really made anything for anything else. But it is available. Yes, you can do stuff like that.
If you wanted to add, say, D-Star, and assuming, I know the radio, you don't see that on HF, but.
So D-Star, actually, there was a working D-Star module. And what you do is you get a little dongle, because you need the chip from DVSI, right?
Yeah.
And you plug that in the USB, and then you run the software, and you could run D-Star.
You got the little AMD dongle on there.
Right.
AMD dongle, yeah.
Correct, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyone else? This is fascinating. Unless I always ask people, I guess you must understand everything that's going on if there aren't any questions.
I don't know. I think they're asleep or something.
I'll
put them to bed.
No, yeah, hopefully that hasn't happened. John, what do you think?
All right. Yeah, if we don't have any more questions, thank you, Ria, for another great presentation tonight.
Thanks, Ria. Awesome.
Well, listen, thank you. And listen, if you want to get Dave for Node-RED, tell him I sent you. WO2X is a call sign. Okay. He does a program on Node-RED, and Node-RED is basically like it's a visual programming language from IBM, but they've used it to make all sorts of connections to the radio and remote control stuff. So
that was WO.
Yeah, Whiskey Oscar 2 X-ray.
2X. Okay, got that.
Yeah, Dave's a good friend of mine. So
make a note about that. And you may bump into our John in Orlando, right? John's going down to Orlando too.
Yeah, I'll be in Orlando. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have to get you to. You're gonna have to make a connecting flight in June sometime in the next 2 years and get off the plane to our Hamfest. So.
Yeah, lay over to our Hamfest.
Yeah, have a layover.
Oh no, I'll come down to the Hamfest sometime. Yeah, is it a nice Hamfest or?
Oh yeah, of course. But yeah, we're it's a smaller Hamfest, but it's growing, and we've got great facilities now. We've been in a fairground, sort of like Orlando. So, but now we have a brand new, beautiful building that we're going to be able to use. It's a convention center, so a lot of changes in the works.
Yeah, Mickey's talking about bringing down some of the ARRL execs, so that could be cool.
So we'll put you on the counter and remind you. Yeah,
I go to these other divisions Hamfests all the time. I used to go to Hamcom all the time when it was still around. So
yeah, that one was a shocker that it kind of just went by the
Yeah.
wayside. But it's
They're
okay.
saying COVID. I think they're trying to. I think it's other stuff, but they're blaming
Yeah, I
COVID.
think it
I
is.
have to. I have to take their word for it. They're probably having other problems too. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
there's
tough.
more than just COVID, I think, going on.
John, do you need us to hang around for a meeting, or are we
Yeah.
sayonara?
We'll just do a quick business meeting recap of some stuff we're doing and what we're gonna be doing in the future. If you want to hang around, that's great. If not, no problem. We'll catch
Yeah.
you next month. It'll be the first Thursday of the month. That's what it was. So, it's
Thanks,
up to you
Ria.
if you wanna hang
Great to
around
meet you,
for
Ria.
lunch or not.
Great to meet you, and thanks for the
Take care.
presentation.
Yeah, and-
Wonderful. You're our first female presenter, so.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Well, half, because we had Joe and his wife, Mary Catherine. You know Mary
Well, it's
Catherine.
half and
I
half.
know him. Yeah, I know him. I know. So I'll tell him I was
Good,
I
and did a-
represented the club.
There you go.
All right. Take care, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, let's see, I don't think, Skip has rejoined us, so quick thing on repeaters, Stephen, KG4 PTO, they've been working on repeater stuff. He's made a recent trip to the bank tower to kind of look at some things, and they're gonna be doing some, plans for upgrades, maintenance, and so on and so forth coming up. We've got some things to do maintenance-wise on the repeaters. So if you have an interest in working with the repeater committee, please let me know and we'll get you on that committee. If you're interested in doing newsletters, we're always looking for someone to edit the newsletter. Let me know about that. And if you're just looking at being a part of putting some of the fun stuff together we've been doing, let me know and we'll get you on that list too. So we just completed our, we had a winter field day operation here last weekend, I guess. I'm still frozen, so my mind's a little slow on that one, but it was a good time had by all. We had about 10 people on Saturday there during the day, and then we finished the evening off with, we were at the, oh boy, Sweetwater Creek State Park out on the west side of town near Six Flags. And we had, we actually had a camp spot in the pavilion. It was just Skip and I that spent the night out there. We were probably the only two people stupid enough to do that, but I woke up about 4 o'clock and I was frozen. So but, we had 10 people out on Saturday and finished the day off with some great barbecue, and most folks went home about that time. We ran radios until about 10:30, I guess. We were 4 Oscar, which meant we were 4 radios outdoors, and we had a blast. So if you ever have a chance to join us on some of our outdoor adventures, please do come. We're trying to have something at least once a month. February, we're possibly going to do something on the 19th, I believe it is. It's the weekend after Orlando. And then the weekend following that will be Dalton, Hamfest. And of course, the marathon on the Sunday right after that too. So if you have an interest in helping with the marathon, running an HT or something, go to the Publix Atlanta Marathon website and sign up as a radio operator. I believe they're still looking for participants in that. The Atlanta Ham Fest is looking pretty good at this point. We had a call with the park out there, and they pretty much opened everything back up at this point. They're still requiring masks this month, but she doesn't foresee any problems going forward as far as our event. And as usual, the circus are it's always the week before, so we always have to deal with the smell of elephants afterwards setting up on Friday. But we're looking good. I don't anticipate any problems going forward with having the Hamfest this year, so that's good. I met with the Kenichi folks last night to go over some stuff, so we're having Hamfest committee meetings at this point, getting ready to kick everything into full gear here. And I'll be in Orlando next week with the Hamfest, representing the Atlanta Hamfest. We'll have a full booth there, so if you have a chance and you've ever thought about going to Orlando, this would be a good weekend to go. Last year, or I'm sorry, 2020, it was snowing here, and I was in shorts and 75, 80-degree weather down there. So it's a great place to go visit, and it's a great Hamfest and fairgrounds down there. So Of course, we'll have a table at the Dalton Hand Fest coming up for the Atlanta Hand Fest. So if you have an interest in coming out and hanging out for an hour or so at the table, or maybe passing some flyers out in the bun, please let me know. I can help make that happen. So please do join us on that. We had, let's see, what was the other event? Anyway, so we've been doing some really good events. Our POTA event, I'm sorry, that's what it was. We did a POTA operation, let's see, was that the end of January? Can't remember. No, not the end of January, middle of January. We did a POTA operation out at Panola State Park, and had several people show up for that during the day. Of course, it was another cold day, but fun was had by all. We made a bunch of contacts, and so we're doing a lot of POTA stuff when we get a chance to. I think we did one back in December too, if I remember correctly. So if you have an interest in POTA, keep an eye out on the calendar and come join us. We're going to try to do quite a bit more POTA over the years. So please do join us with it. I still haven't seen Skip joining. Oh well,
He's on there.
Skip's working. Oh, Skip, I'm sorry, he's there. I'll hand it over and let Skip do a quick review on what he's been working on as vice president. So take it away, Skip. Unmute yourself. Yeah, you're still muted. There he is.
There we go. How's that?
Sounds great.
Hi. Okay. Well, I just wanted to announce to everyone that the club, has a whole bunch of equipment. Obviously, we have repeaters and antennas and all kinds of stuff up on the Bank of America Tower. But we also have a bunch of other equipment that the club has accumulated over the years. And we are in the process now of cataloging all of that. And it's still a work in progress. We have to get this list together. But the idea is at some point we'll have this list together so we'll know exactly what we've got and where it is. But part of what we will have will be a list of items that are available for club members to borrow if they want. So we will have radios, and we'll have base stations, we'll have handhelds, we'll have tuners and antennas, and I'm not even sure what will be in this list.
Analyzer.
Analyzer, yeah, that's right, which is a really useful thing to have. And it will be available for club members to check out and borrow. So I'm going to post a list on the groups.io file section, and I'll do that in the next day or two. And like I said, it's still a work in progress, so don't start lining up to borrow stuff. But sometime within the near future, we'll have a list of equipment that's available to club members whenever they want to use it, and a process for checking it out. So just contact us if you have any questions, and be patient. We're moving as fast as we can.
Okay.
That was it.
All right, sounds good. Thanks. Yeah, that's one of his duties as vice president, to inventory, keep an inventory on stuff and several other things. So he's been working hard at trying to get that cleaned up. It got a little messy over the last couple of years, but part of it is be nice if we, as we get, I think in years past we've gotten stuff and just sold it off. But what we'd like to do is try to hang on to when a silent key donates a station or something, we'd like to try to hang on to that and use it as a loaner for somebody, either particularly maybe a new ham or someone who may not have a station or whatever that they would like to borrow. And something damage happening, but I think we're pretty confident that everybody will do their due diligence to take care of the equipment as they check it and use it. So, but we'd like to have stuff available for you to use, and things like the antennas are really good. Analyzer is a good idea. So you can learn how to use that and borrow it and check your antennas and your coax and other things. So that's what we're going for now. So rather than just getting it and selling it off, and keep some of the stuff and make it available to y'all and to new hands. So thanks, Skip, on that. Abe, you got us membership and any money reports?
Sure. Current count of members is 75 active members. And number of life members, I believe, is 17. 30 of the 75 are ARRL members. That's one of the things that we want to do eventually is put on the website, add to the website a way in which people can join the ARRL through us. We get a slight benefit if they do that, and it'd be nice to give people an easy way to do it. Financially, we've got a little over 17,000 in various bank accounts. So we're hanging in there financially. Anyway, we're trying to keep our bills moving along.
All right. Yeah, it's always important that 17,000 is a good number because some of it's obviously that's not all spendable money, not all spendable cash, but some of it's reserved for specifically for things restricted for certain things. But it's a good healthy amount to have, and of course, we always need quite a chunk of cash around Hamfest time. So that helps us make the Hamfest happen too. So it's good to have a healthy checkbook and be able to fix things on the repeaters when they break. We're doing a little work. I think Jeff's working on some stuff to help. We've had a Raspberry Pi running some stuff up there that's failing, and so Jeff and Stephen are working on some stuff at the Bank of America tower too.
Yeah, I had a couple of things I wanted to cover if possible, maybe if you have time.
I'll let you. Yeah, I'll let you have the mic. Go ahead.
Oh, are you sure? Are you done? Or
go ahead, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, a couple of things. Well, yeah. So there is, to your point,
yeah, go ahead.
It's a Raspberry Pi that I use for remotely managing the DMR repeater, and for whatever reason, we do experience power outages regularly at the repeater site, and the Raspberry Pis don't really like having power abruptly removed. So making some changes to add a battery backup system and some more resiliency so that we don't lose. It's not just being able to remotely manage the DMR repeater either. It also allows us to remotely manage the controller and a few other systems. So it'll be nice to have that in place. Just got all the hardware yesterday. I had been talking about this for a couple of years now, but finally, I don't know if Rob shared with any of you guys, but there's a free membership management application that Alan Sellers and I had looked at a couple of years ago. I finally have a prototype, like kind of like an introductory version of it to look at. So, maybe I'll bring it up specifically with the executive team, but just wanted to let you guys know that I do have it up and running. So definitely worth looking into. It looks really, really nice, and it is free, as in beer. And then the only other thing that I wanted to talk about was with respect to the DMR repeater. So many of you guys know that the repeater is connected to the K4USD network. When it was first brought online, it was connected directly to Brandmeister very briefly. And then swung it over to K4USD, and that's where it's been since. And I'm sure Rob will agree that we hear from people regularly that want to know, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? And a lot of it is because of limitations that are intentionally imposed on the K4USD network. So I've been thinking about it for a while now, and I just kind of wanted to at least socialize it. It's an easy change to move it back over to Brandmeister, and I don't know if what general thoughts are about doing that, but it's a quick and easy change, and so if people are receptive to doing it, we can do that.
Quick question: what's the name of the membership software you were looking at?
It's called Tendency, but it's Tango, what is it? Tango Echo November Delta Echo November Charlie India. So basically Tendency with an I at the end.
Okay.
And it is a free open source tool. It actually has a whole lot more capabilities to it than I ever realized that it did. It's like I said, it's pretty impressive. I mean, it even has the ability to be the club website, right? I mean, it's not just membership management software.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, it can be linked into PayPal and Stripe and like one or two other payment processing services and self-service capabilities. Everybody can log in and manage their own membership accounts, and it was actually even more impressive than I expected, and it was actually a lot easier to set up than I expected.
Yeah, you've got it deployed where like you can get on and play with it.
Good.
Yeah.
And
So-
Jeff, does it allow you to track the member expiration, the expiration dates on membership and automatically ping people to renew?
Yep. In fact, you can actually go in and you can say, you know, okay, so the membership is the membership system is co-terms at a certain time of the year, or you go, you know, month to month, or, you know, from the date that you join to the date that it expires. You can select that globally. You can override it on a user by user basis. You've got a lot of flexibility to choose whatever you want.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Like I said, I was even more pleasantly surprised. I mean, it was a lot more feature rich than what I was expecting. So what I'll do is I kind of have it like running on it's just running on a machine here at my house that needs to be running in order for you guys to get into it, but I'm going to move it somewhere else so that it's easier for you to get to whenever you want.
Okay.
And let you guys kind of kick the tires on it and let me know what you think of it. And if it's something that you guys decide that you want to move forward with, I mean, I always wanted something that there's plenty of solutions that are out there that cost money. And I mean, we have the money for it, but why not use something that's free?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is this, yeah. All right, layout. Let's do that. Let's look into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, and Jeff, I had a question about the switching the networks for DMR. I wouldn't presume to offer an opinion, but can you, at some point, you don't have to do it on the call tonight, but maybe in an email or something, just kind of briefly state what the advantages and disadvantages are of switching from KUSD to Brandmeister?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
are.
I mean, you know, the short version of it is that it adds capabilities. The one thing that it does that could potentially be problematic is that, so, you know, with a network like K4USD, whoever manages that network has a lot of control over who can connect to what and how long they can connect for. When you're on when you have a repeater that's connected to Brandmeister, I mean, you still, the DMR is DMR, right? You only have 2 time slots. You could end up in a situation where somebody has the same talk group linked on both time slots, and there's not really much of anything that you can do to prevent that from happening without introducing another piece of software in between. But, you know, it would give people the ability to do things like private calls and APRS and using GPS updates, right? I mean, there's a lot of other benefits that do come along with it.
Like what people were talking about last night.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay.
I mean, think about it as like you know, a DMR hotspot with at the top of the Bank of America tower with 50 watts on it.
Hey, Jeff, I'm looking at their website, Tendency's website, and it's a little confusing. They say something like open source starts at 0, but then they have a pricing schedule.
Yes,
Oh.
so there's a the way that it works is, I mean, you get the same software for free as what they provide commercially, but they offer versions where they'll host it for you. You know, they'll provide technical support. You know, if you do it by yourself with the software for free, you're kind of on your own. But there is a very it seems like a pretty extensive community-based support, which is pretty common in the open source world. So
yeah, that makes sense.
You know, it's just a matter of do you want to pay to have somebody to maintain, you know, the servers for you and be available, you know, 5x12 or 7x24 for support. I mean, that's really what it boils down to from best of my knowledge. But I mean, we can look into that aspect of it further if you want.
And that doesn't sound like, I mean, we wouldn't need hosting. So.
Well, so I mean, it does need to be hosted somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, but there are options that are out there for doing it very inexpensively. So there's, you know, you could put it in a place like Amazon Web Services, but AWS can be pretty expensive. There are less expensive solutions that are out there that would be more than adequate for what you know, for what we would need. So I was just I could tell you I was really pleasantly surprised as to how easy it was to get it running. I mean, it took about an hour, but you know, it's sorry for the noise. I just kicked over something here in my basement. I just got back from going out to the store. But yeah, so you know, it was easy to get set up, and you know, it's pretty nice looking. I don't know what it's actually like to how, like, as far as customizing like the look and the feel and the content of it all, but it's got more knobs and dials on it than I expected.
Yeah, for those who don't know, this was coming out of our attempt to figure out a way to address our expiring memberships so that people could get an automatic email or something to remind them, since we're on a monthly thing instead of once a year. So that's where this all kind of grew out of. So
yeah, and I mean, you know, there's solutions that are out there like what North Fulton is using, but I mean, they're paying $300 a year for it. It's not for the faint of heart, right? I mean, that's not cheap.
Yeah, maybe in the future.
Well, I think you guys may really like this. Just give me a little bit of time to get it set up on a system that you guys can get to at any point in time, as opposed to me having to leave this computer running.
All right, sounds good.
Yep. And then, I mean, you know, I was going to talk about it with Stephen a little bit. I mean, I'm sure he probably won't have an issue with the flipping over to Brandmeister. It would just be a matter of having to just update the website and go on groups.io and Facebook just to let people know that the change is coming and whenever we decide to do it.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right.
That was it.
Okay. I think that's. Do we have a program for next month, Rob?
Not yet. We will soon. I was thinking, you know, I asked for a backup. I talked to somebody the other day about whether they can be a backup for this month, and I figured if we didn't need them, which we didn't, I'd get them for next month, but I never heard back from them. Okay. So I've got to talk to somebody else. We will definitely have one. Yeah, it's, you know, I think we've been having great programs. I'm not patting myself on that. I'm just like Ria was good. You know,
you should, Rob. You've done an amazing job. The programs have been excellent.
Yeah, they're easy to find. You know, people are all over the internet, and yeah, the question will be when we start meeting back in town, and we only have choices of people presenting who live here. That's that's where the
Well, I
real
mean,
challenge
really,
is.
honestly, this Zoom thing is there's no reason why we can't continue to use Zoom as part of our meetings. So there'll be,
That's
we'll
true.
still have the option of having a Zoom presentation, even though we're doing in-person meetings. Hopefully, I hadn't heard any more from the Red Cross yet as far as in-person, but hopefully here shortly we'll be able to. The worst case, we may have to find an alternate location until they open back up. But we'll be able to use. I know at the Red Cross will easily be able to implement Zoom as part of our meetings going forward. Kinahuchi did it last night with a few problems, but they were at the Boy Scout Center with a lot of the top of the line uh, equipment at their disposal. And then the Fayetteville Club uses it, and they're in a 911 center. So when you got the equipment, the connections to plug everything in, it easily works. So there's no reason why we can't use it. So I'll come back from Orlando with an armful of business cards and people willing to do some Zoom presentations. But we'll definitely
Oh, that'd be
continue
good.
to implement.
Yeah, plus we're going to look at, possibly having some just YouTubes ready to show.
Yeah.
It'd be one way with no Q&A, but some of those are pretty good.
Yeah. And the idea Jeff meant, or Rob mentioned the backup. We were talking about the other day, is it'd be good to have a backup presentation, even if it was just a video that we could flip on in case for some reason Ria didn't show up tonight. For example, we could flip something that was still of interest to people. So we were thinking about how to have a backup presentation in the can, just to have ourselves backed up with something in case, because especially with the ARRL folks, sometimes they're a little off and on about doing stuff at last minute. So yeah, so we'll continue to use Zoom. It's certainly worth the money that we have to spend on it. So,
I've got a couple of things. So the video of this meeting will be available, in a few days on YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel, ARC or Atlanta Radio Club. I don't know for the link wise. You just could, if you do go into Atlanta Radio Club and do, YouTube and do a search on Atlanta Radio Club, you'll see our videos out there. We've got one set of videos for all of our meetings for about the past almost 18 months. And then there are other loose videos out there. One of them is from MFJ, from a presentation we had by the head of MFJ, Martin Jew, on how to use their analyzer for all kinds of interesting things that people didn't know about. So we've got some good videos out there. And again, the meeting videos are out there. The video from Jeff's great talk last month is out there. And this one should be out there in a few days. And check the website for things that's going on. We have groups.io, just to plug in for that. And we've got our Facebook group, for distributing news to everybody. And we got the Friday lunches at Mellow Mushroom, 12:30 Friday afternoons in Brookhaven. And that's on the website too. Just get to hang around with the guys and eat and talk. So that's it for me.
I don't have anything else. We're down to about 8 people on the Zoom, but do look for Skip this week, working Parks on the Air and his mobile home going down to Orlando and back. So I think he posted an email on the IO group, kind of giving a short itinerary of which parks he was going to stop at, but you can search his call on the Parks on the Air website if you're into Parks on the Air, and follow him and try to make contact. So I think he's going to pay you too if you make contact. I heard something about giving you some money or something. I mean,
And you guys,
Yeah, that's right.
report from Orlando.
what's that?
You guys will report from Orlando. Send
Yeah,
up
yeah,
how things are going down there.
I'll do some Facebook posting while we're down there, and some and pictures on Facebook, and then I'll give you a report on any good news I got out of Orlando. I'm hoping to come back with some good news on some things, Handfest wise and club wise too. So we've done a real good job of impressing the ARRL folks on our activities. So they're in tune with what we're doing and always asking what's ARC doing. So sorry to hear about your father, Ed. Thanks for joining us tonight. I hope you've gotten all that taken care of, and if we can be of any help with anything, please do let us know. We're more than willing to help.
Oh, well,
you.
thanks. Going through all that stuff now, so I'll be back soon.
Good, good. All right. Well, like I said, you're in our prayers, and sorry to hear about that. Today's actually the year anniversary. My mom passed in last February 3rd, so it was a rough couple of years here. Anyway, so I don't have anything else. Anybody else have any questions about anything? Any suggestions or anything? Like I said, I think we were going to try to, we don't have anything planned, but we were going to try to possibly do something on the 19th maybe. So just kind of keep your ears out to the IO group and Facebook and stuff. And like I said, we've got Orlando next weekend, then the 19th, and then the following weekend is both Dalton Ham Fest and on Saturday, and then the marathon on Sunday. So it's a busy month, but we'll try to squeeze something in. Just keep an ear out. So.
Oh, and Ria's going to send her slides and I'll post those.
Okay. All right. If nothing else, it's about 8:37 or so, and I guess we'll catch you either at lunch tomorrow or at our next, maybe the Dalton Ham Fest, our next meeting on the 1st of March. So y'all have a good evening.
All righty. All right.
All right.
Okay. I'll see some of you down in Orlando. Bye.
Bye.
Take it easy.
Good night, guys.
Night.